I never thought I would be the guy posting in a relationship subreddit at 2 a.m., typing this on my phone while sitting in my car outside my own apartment building. But here we are. For context, I'm 34M and my wife is 32F. We've been together for almost 9 years, married for 6. For most of that time, I thought we were one of those couples people pointed at and said, they've got it figured out. We didn't fight much. We had routines. Sunday groceries, dumb Netflix shows at night, complaining about work like every other couple. At least that's what I believed. Looking back now, the first signs that something was off started about 6 months ago. At the time they seemed small. Easy to explain. Easy to ignore. She started staying late at work more often. At first it was maybe once a week. Then it turned into 3 or 4 nights. Her explanations always sounded reasonable. Big project deadline. My boss is a nightmare this week. 2 people in my department quit, so everything is chaos. And I believed her. Why wouldn't I? But the weird part wasn't just the hours. It was her attitude. My wife has always had a sharp personality, kind of blunt, sometimes a little harsh when she's stressed, but this felt different. She became constantly irritated. If I asked when she'd be home, she'd snap back with something like, "Why are you interrogating me? Do you want me to quit my job or something? God, you're being paranoid again." The thing is, I hadn't even accused her of anything. I just asked simple questions. Another thing I noticed, her phone basically became a permanent extension of her hand. Before this, she used to leave it on the kitchen counter, on the couch, wherever. Suddenly it was always face down. Always with her. If she went to shower, the phone went with her. If she went to get the mail downstairs, the phone went with her. One night I joked about it. I said something like, "Wow, should I be jealous of that phone?" She didn't laugh. She looked at me like I'd just insulted her and said, "Maybe if you weren't so insecure, you wouldn't make stupid jokes like that." That was the first moment something in my gut twisted. But I still pushed the feeling away. Because when you've spent almost a decade with someone, your brain doesn't immediately jump to cheating. You assume stress. Work problems. Burnout. You tell yourself you're overthinking. And honestly, I wanted to believe that. I just didn't realize that things were about to get a lot weirder. And a lot worse. About a week after I started noticing those weird changes, the first really strange thing happened. It was a Thursday night. I remember because Thursdays were always our lazy dinner night, usually takeout and watching something stupid on TV. She texted me around 7:30 p.m. "Working late again. Don't wait up." Nothing unusual about that message anymore. By that point I had already seen a dozen like it. So I ordered food, ate alone, and ended up falling asleep on the couch around 10:30. At about 1:15 a.m., I woke up to the sound of the apartment door opening. She came in quietly, like she was trying not to wake anyone up. Which was weird because, it was just me there. I sat up and said, half asleep, "Hey. You're home late." She froze for a second. Then she said, kind of sharply, "Yeah. I told you I had work." Something about her tone immediately felt defensive. Then I noticed a couple of things that didn't add up. First, she didn't look like she'd been working late. Her hair was done. Not messy, I've been at a desk for 12 hours, hair. It looked styled. Second, she smelled like perfume. Not her normal one either. Something stronger. And third, she was wearing a dress. Now, that might not sound weird, but my wife never wore dresses to work. Her office was super casual. Jeans and sweaters kind of place. I asked, trying to keep it casual, "Wait, were you working or going somewhere?" Her reaction was immediate. She rolled her eyes and tossed her bag onto the chair. Oh my God, here we go. I blinked. Here we go, what? She crossed her arms and said. Why are you acting like a detective? I told you I was working. My team grabbed drinks after. Happy? The way she said it felt rehearsed. Fast. Like she had already prepared that explanation. I nodded slowly. Okay, you didn't mention drinks. She snapped back instantly. Because I didn't know I needed to give you a full itinerary of my night. That shut the conversation down. I remember just sitting there on the couch feeling stupid for even asking. She went straight to the bathroom and shut the door. About 5 minutes later, I heard the shower start. At the time, I told myself she was just stressed. But there was one tiny moment that kept replaying in my head. When she walked past the couch toward the bathroom, her phone lit up for half a second. I wasn't trying to snoop. But I saw a notification preview. Just 3 words. Miss you already. And a heart emoji. The sender name was saved as A. That was the first moment the thought hit me. What if she's actually cheating? I tried to shake it off. But the problem was, that message was just the beginning. I barely slept that night. I kept replaying that notification in my head. Miss you already, red heart. At first I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a coworker joking around. Maybe a friend. Maybe I misread it because I was half asleep. But something about it didn't sit right. The next morning she acted like nothing happened. Totally normal. She was making coffee in the kitchen when I walked in. She even smiled at me. Morning. Like the weird tension from the night before never existed. That almost made it worse. I asked casually, trying to keep my voice neutral. So, how were the drinks last night? She didn't even look up from her phone. Fine. Just that. One word. No story. No details. Nothing. Normally if she went out with coworkers she'd complain about someone or tell some random office gossip. This time it was like pulling teeth. I tried again. Who went? She sighed loudly like I'd asked the most annoying question in the world. My team. Why does it matter? I'm just asking. Then she gave me a look that basically said drop it. And I did. But over the next few days the weird behavior kept stacking up. Her phone was practically glued to her hand. She started taking calls in the hallway or on the balcony. If I walked into the room while she was texting, the screen flipped face down instantly. Once I walked in on her smiling at her phone, like a big, genuine smile, and the second she saw me, her face went completely blank. It was like watching someone flip a switch. One night I asked if she wanted to watch something together. She said she was too tired and went to bed early. About 30 minutes later I walked into the bedroom to grab something. She was lying in bed, wide awake, texting. The second she saw me, she locked the phone. Fast. Too fast. Thought you were tired, I said. I am. Then she rolled over, facing the wall. That moment stuck with me. Not because it proved anything. But because for the first time in 9 years. I felt like I was living with a stranger. And then the first real crack in her story showed up. Completely by accident. 3 days later, I ran into one of her coworkers. And what he told me made my stomach drop. 3 days later, I stopped by a grocery store near my office after work. Nothing special. Just grabbing a few things for dinner. I was in the frozen aisle staring at pizza options when I heard someone behind me say, "Hey, aren't you Sarah's husband?" I turned around and saw Mark. I knew him vaguely. He worked with my wife. I had met him once at a company holiday party a couple years ago. Nice enough guy. Early 30s, friendly, the type who talks a lot. Yeah, I said. Hey, Mark, right? Yeah. Small world, he laughed. We talked for maybe a minute about random stuff, work, traffic, the usual small talk. Then he said something that made my brain completely stall. So how's Sarah enjoying her vacation? I blinked. Her, what? He looked confused. Her vacation. She took the week off, didn't she? For a second I genuinely thought he was joking. I forced a small laugh. No, she's been working late every night this week. Mark's smile faded. Oh. There was this really awkward pause. The kind where both people suddenly realize something weird is happening. He scratched the back of his neck. Maybe I'm mixing up weeks or something. But the way he said it didn't sound convincing. My stomach started doing that slow sinking feeling. I asked carefully. When did she take the week off? He looked uncomfortable now. Monday. I'm pretty sure. She told the team she'd be out all week. Monday. That was the same Monday the late nights started. I suddenly felt cold. I nodded slowly and pretended it wasn't a big deal. Oh, yeah, maybe she mentioned that and I forgot. Yeah, probably, he said quickly. But we both knew that sounded like complete bullshit. We said goodbye and went our separate ways. The moment I got into my car, I just sat there staring at the steering wheel. My wife had told me she was drowning in work. Late meetings. Deadlines. Stress. But according to her coworker, she wasn't even working. She had taken the entire week off. Which meant one thing. Every night she came home late. Every excuse she gave me. Every irritated, stop interrogating me, comment. Was a lie. And I still didn't know where she had actually been going. But 2 hours later, I was about to find out something even worse. Completely by accident. I drove home from the grocery store feeling like my brain was stuck in a loop. Vacation. The word kept repeating in my head. If Mark was right, and I had no reason to think he was lying, then my wife had taken the entire week off work. Which meant every single, late night at the office, she told me about was complete bullshit. I tried to think of other explanations. Maybe she took time off but still went into the office for something. Maybe Mark misunderstood. Maybe there was some weird scheduling thing. But none of those explanations made sense. By the time I got home, my stomach felt like it was full of rocks. Her car was already in the parking lot. Which surprised me, because it was only about 6:30 p.m. Most nights that week she didn't come home until after midnight. When I walked into the apartment, she was sitting on the couch scrolling on her phone. She looked up briefly. Hey. Like everything was normal. I set the groceries down on the counter and tried to act casual. How was work? She didn't even hesitate. Busy. Same as always. That was line number 1. I nodded. Long day. Yeah. Line number 2. Then I said something that made the room go very quiet. I ran into Mark today. Her reaction was instant. Her head snapped up. Mark? Yeah. From your office. For a split second, I swear I saw panic in her eyes. Then it disappeared. Oh, okay. I leaned against the counter. He said something interesting. She locked her phone screen and set it down slowly. Like what? I looked straight at her. He said you're on vacation this week. The silence after that felt heavy. She stared at me for a few seconds. Then she laughed. But it was the fakest laugh I've ever heard. Oh my God. That's what this is about. I didn't say anything. She rolled her eyes dramatically. I took 2 days off. Not the whole week. Mark probably misunderstood. Her tone was sharp. Defensive. Irritated. But the thing was, it didn't line up with anything she'd told me. Which 2 days? I asked. She paused. Just for a second. But I noticed. Monday and Tuesday, she said quickly. Except Monday and Tuesday were the exact nights she told me she was working until midnight. I felt this weird mix of anger and disbelief bubbling up. That's weird, I said slowly. Because those were the nights you told me you had meetings. Her expression hardened instantly. Oh my God, are you seriously doing this right now? Doing what? Interrogating me. The word again. Interrogating. Like asking basic questions about obvious lies made me the bad guy. Then she grabbed her phone and stood up. I'm not having this conversation. And she walked into the bedroom and slammed the door. I stood there in the kitchen, completely stunned. But the weirdest part came about 10 minutes later. Because while she thought I was still in the kitchen, her phone started ringing on the couch. And the name on the screen was the same one I saw the other night. Her phone kept ringing on the couch. The same contact name I saw the other night when that "Miss you already read heart" message popped up. I just stood there staring at it. My brain was basically screaming don't do it, but at the same time, every instinct in my body was telling me something was very wrong. The phone rang for about 5 seconds. Then it stopped. A second later, a text message came through. The preview lit up the screen. And yeah. I read it. I know some people will say that's an invasion of privacy. Maybe it is. But when your spouse has been lying to your face all week, that line starts getting blurry. The message said. Call me when he's not around. My chest tightened. He. That was me. Another message appeared almost immediately. Did he ask questions again? I felt this weird buzzing in my head, like the moment right before a panic attack. At that exact second, the bedroom door opened. My wife walked back into the living room. She froze when she saw where I was standing. Right next to the couch. Right next to her phone. Her eyes darted to the screen. Then back to me. What are you doing? She asked sharply. I think that's a better question for you, I said quietly. She grabbed the phone before I could say anything else. Too fast. Like she was afraid I'd see more. Were you going through my phone? She snapped. I shook my head. No. It was ringing. She stared at me like she was trying to calculate something. Then she said the most ridiculous thing I've heard in a long time. That's just my cousin Alex. I blinked. Your cousin? Yeah. She said it immediately. No hesitation. Which was funny, because in 9 years together I had never once heard of a cousin Alex she texted constantly. Then why did he text call me when he's not around? I asked. Her face hardened. You're twisting things. I literally read the message. You shouldn't have been looking at my phone. The way she kept flipping it back onto me was starting to make my head spin. I took a breath and tried to stay calm. Okay. Then call him. What? Call Alex. Right now. Put it on speaker. For the first time since this conversation started. She hesitated. Just a second. But that second told me everything. Then she scoffed. I'm not doing that. This is insane. And she walked toward the hallway again. I said something that made her stop. Your coworker told me you're on vacation this week. She slowly turned around. And the look she gave me wasn't nervous anymore. It was angry. Cold angry. Oh my God, she said. You are seriously obsessed. Obsessed. That word hit me harder than I expected. Because suddenly I realized something. She wasn't even trying to make the story believable anymore. She was just lying and hoping I'd shut up. But the night was about to take a turn neither of us expected. Because about 20 minutes later, someone knocked on our door. About 20 minutes after that argument, the apartment was completely silent. She had locked herself in the bedroom again. I was sitting on the couch pretending to watch TV, but honestly I wasn't seeing anything on the screen. My mind kept replaying everything, the lies, the texts, the weird reactions. At this point, my gut was screaming the truth at me. But a part of me still didn't want to fully believe it. 9 years together does that to you. Your brain keeps trying to protect the version of reality you thought you had. Then suddenly, knock. 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 Someone was at the door. It wasn't a soft knock either. It was confident. Like whoever it was expected the door to open. I frowned and got up. My wife didn't come out of the bedroom. So I walked to the door and opened it. And standing there was a guy I had never seen before. Early 30s maybe. Tall. Well-dressed. Holding his phone in one hand. For a second we just stared at each other. Then he said, is Sarah here?" The moment he said her name, something in my chest dropped. "Yeah," I said slowly. "Why?" He looked confused. "I think she left something in my car." That sentence felt like someone dumping ice water on my brain. I stayed calm, though. "What's your name?" I asked. "Adam." There it was. The contact on her phone. Behind me, I suddenly heard the bedroom door open. My wife stepped into the hallway. And the second she saw the guy standing at the door, her entire face drained of color. For a moment nobody spoke. Then she said quietly, "What are you doing here?" Adam looked just as confused now. "You said you left your charger in my car," he said. "I was already nearby so I figured I'd drop it off." He held up a phone charger. I slowly turned my head toward my wife. She looked like someone had just pulled the floor out from under her. I asked the obvious question. "You know this guy?" She opened her mouth. Closed it. Then said the worst possible thing she could have said in that moment. "It's not what you think." Adam's eyes flicked between both of us. "Wait," he said slowly. "You didn't tell him?" The room went dead quiet. And in that exact moment, everything finally started to make sense. When Adam said, "You didn't tell him," the entire room went completely silent. I remember hearing the refrigerator humming in the kitchen. That's how quiet it was. My wife looked like she was trying to think of a way out of a burning building with no exits. "Tell him what?" I asked slowly. Adam looked confused. Then uncomfortable. He glanced at my wife. "Sarah." She snapped immediately. "Just give me the charger." Her voice was sharp, almost aggressive. She stepped forward like she wanted to end the situation as fast as possible. But Adam didn't move. Instead he looked back at me. "You're her husband, right?" I nodded. He ran a hand through his hair and let out this awkward breath. "Oh man. That was not the reaction you want from a stranger standing at your front door." "What's going on?" I asked. Before he could answer, my wife cut in again. "Nothing is going on. He's just a friend." Adam turned toward her slowly. "A friend?" There was a weird tone in his voice now. "Sarah, we literally spent the last 3 nights together." The words landed like a grenade in the room. My chest felt tight. I didn't even feel anger yet. Just this numb disbelief. I looked at her. 3 nights. She immediately shook her head. "He's exaggerating." Adam frowned. "Exaggerating? You stayed at my place Monday, Tuesday, and last night." Then he looked at me again. She told me you guys were separated. For a second I honestly thought I might pass out. Separated. That word echoed in my head. I slowly turned back to my wife. You told him we're separated? Her eyes were burning now. With all the drama you're creating, we might as well be. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Instead of denying anything, she was doubling down. Adam looked like he had just walked into the world's most awkward situation. Wait, he said. Hold on. You told me you moved out 2 months ago. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so insane I didn't know how else to react. She lives here, I said. She slept here last week. Adam's face went pale. He looked at her again. You said you were single. She threw her hands up. Oh my God, are we seriously doing this right now? Yes. Yes, we were. Because in less than 2 minutes, her entire story had collapsed. And the worst part? She still wasn't done lying. At this point the hallway outside our apartment felt like the most uncomfortable place on earth. Adam was standing in the doorway holding a charger like he'd just realized he accidentally walked into a crime scene. I was leaning against the doorframe trying to process the fact that my wife had apparently been living a completely different life for the past week. And my wife? She looked furious. Not embarrassed. Not ashamed. Just angry. At both of us. She pointed at Adam. You need to leave. Her voice had that sharp edge I'd heard 100 times before, the one she used whenever she wanted to shut a conversation down. Adam didn't move. Sarah, he said carefully, you told me you were divorced. I said we were basically divorced. That's not the same thing. She rolled her eyes dramatically. Oh my God, this is ridiculous. I finally stepped fully into the doorway. No, I said quietly. What's ridiculous is finding out from a random guy at my door that my wife has been sleeping at his place. Adam looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. He held up his hands slightly. Look man, I swear I didn't know. And honestly, I believed him. His reaction felt real. Confused. Uncomfortable. A little horrified. My wife, on the other hand, looked like she was trying to turn the whole thing into my fault. She crossed her arms. You're acting like this is some huge betrayal. I stared at her. You're kidding. She shrugged. We've had problems for months. That was news to me. Problems? I repeated. Yes, she said coldly. You're distant, you're boring, and you've been paranoid lately. I actually laughed again. You've been lying to me all week and somehow I'm the paranoid one. She snapped back instantly. Maybe if you weren't so controlling, I wouldn't feel like I need space. Space. That word hit me in a weird way. Because what she called space apparently meant sleeping at another guy's apartment while telling him she was single. Adam finally spoke again. Okay. I really don't want to be in the middle of this. He set the charger down on the small table by the door. I'm gonna go. Before leaving, he looked at me and said quietly. For what it's worth. I didn't know she was married. I nodded. I believe you. Then he left. The door closed. And suddenly it was just me and my wife standing in the apartment. The silence that followed felt heavier than anything that had happened so far. Because now there was no audience. No interruptions. Just the truth sitting between us. I looked at her and asked the question that had been building in my chest all night. How long? She didn't answer right away. Instead she picked up her phone from the table and checked it. Like the conversation was an inconvenience. Then she finally said. A few weeks. And somehow that answer hurt even more than I expected. A few weeks. That's what she said. Like it was nothing. Like she was telling me how long she'd been watching a new TV show. I stood there staring at her, trying to process it. A few weeks. I repeated. She shrugged. Yeah. No apology. No guilt. Nothing. I rubbed my face with both hands and tried to slow down my breathing. Okay, I said. Let's be honest for once tonight. She rolled her eyes but didn't interrupt. Were you planning to tell me? Her answer came immediately. No. At least that part was honest. Why not? She leaned against the kitchen counter and crossed her arms. Because you would have reacted exactly like this. I stared at her. You mean upset that my wife is sleeping with another guy? She let out a dramatic sigh. See? This is why I didn't want to deal with it. Deal with it. That phrase hit something deep inside me. Like our entire marriage had suddenly been reduced to an annoying task on her to-do list. I walked into the kitchen and sat down at the table. My hands were shaking slightly, which I hated because it made me feel weak in front of her. How did you even meet him? I asked. She looked irritated that the conversation was continuing. Through friends. When? A month ago. A month. That meant she had met him, started sleeping with him, and somehow kept acting normal around me the entire time. Does he know you're married now? I asked. She shrugged again. He does now. Are you still planning to see him? She hesitated. Just long enough for the answer to be obvious. I don't know, she said. I laughed quietly. 9 years together. 6 years married. And she couldn't even say she'd stopped seeing the guy she cheated with. That's when something inside me started shifting. Up until this point I had been hoping, stupidly, that there would be some explanation. A mistake. A moment of regret. But looking at her standing there. Scrolling her phone. Looking annoyed. Acting like I was the problem. I realized something painful. She didn't regret it. Not even a little. And that realization hit harder than the cheating itself. Because it meant the woman I thought I married probably didn't exist anymore. Or maybe she never did. But the night still wasn't over. Because about 5 minutes later, she said something that pushed the situation into an entirely new level of insanity. She looked at me with this mix of irritation and, almost smugness. You know, she said slowly, if you hadn't been so paranoid, none of this would have blown up. I blinked. Excuse me. She crossed her arms and leaned against the counter like she was delivering a lecture. You're always questioning me, watching me, checking my phone. I needed some space. Some freedom. And honestly, it was kind of fun. Fun. The word echoed in my head. Fun. All the lies. All the late nights. All the secret messages. All the space she'd been taking with Adam. And to her, it was fun. I felt a surge of rage. Hot, sharp, and almost physical. So cheating is fun now? I asked, voice low. She rolled her eyes. Don't be dramatic. It's not like I was trying to hurt you. You're so sensitive. I laughed, but it was bitter and hollow. Sensitive? I trusted you. I believed every word you said. And this, I gestured wildly around the apartment, this is what I get. She didn't flinch. Didn't apologize. She just looked at me like I was overreacting. I mean, come on. We've been arguing a lot lately. You barely even notice me. You're home, but you're not here. I had needs. I got what I wanted. Her words hit me like a punch. Needs. She called it needs. Not intimacy. Not connection. Not love. Just needs. I wanted to scream. I wanted to hit something. But mostly I just wanted to disappear. For the first time in years, I felt like I didn't know the person standing in front of me at all. And then she did something that made my blood run cold. She smiled. Just a small, satisfied little smile. "Honestly," she said, almost casually, "I don't even feel bad about it. Why should I?" That was it. All the lies. All the late nights. All the secret texts. All the manipulation. She didn't feel guilty. Not even a little. And in that moment, I realized I had a choice to make. Stay and pretend. Or leave before I completely lost myself. But I didn't know which option I was ready for yet. Because the next day was going to be even worse. Her next move completely blindsided me. The next morning, I woke up on the couch. I hadn't slept well. Not even close. My mind kept replaying every word from the night before, every lie, every fake excuse, every smug look on her face. I got up, went to the kitchen, and she was already there, looking completely normal. Like nothing had happened. She was making coffee, humming softly. I swear, it was surreal. "Morning," she said. I didn't respond. She glanced at me, raised an eyebrow. "You're quiet. Everything okay?" I stared at her. The coffee pot in her hand, the casual hum, the way she didn't even flinch when she saw the tension radiating off me, it made me feel insane. "Sarah, last night. What you did, with Adam," I began, my voice tight. She sighed, rolling her eyes, cutting me off. "Yeah, I already said, it's nothing. Stop bringing it up. You're obsessing. Obsessing. That word again." I gritted my teeth. "I'm obsessing. You've been lying to me every single day this week. You told me you were working late. You told your coworker we were separated. You slept at his apartment while I thought you were at home." Her face twisted in annoyance. "You're blowing this way out of proportion. I didn't even want you to know." At that moment, something snapped inside me. I realized I didn't just feel hurt. I felt betrayed, disrespected, manipulated. And worse. I realized I didn't even recognize her anymore. She finished her coffee, set the mug down, and leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "So what are you gonna do?" she asked. I froze. Because in that moment, I understood something fundamental. I wasn't just angry. I wasn't just sad. I was faced with a choice that would define the rest of my life. Stay and try to fix something that might not exist anymore. Or leave before I wasted another second pretending everything was normal. I looked at her, really looked, and I saw someone completely different from the woman I married. Someone sharp, selfish, and fearless in her lies. And I realized I couldn't do it anymore. But the day had one more gut punch left for me. She smiled suddenly, mischievous, like she was proud of herself. "Oh, by the way," she said casually, "Adam invited me out again tonight." And just like that, the final straw broke. I knew I had to confront her, truly confront her, and make a decision. This wasn't just cheating anymore. This was a total collapse of trust. And the confrontation was coming next. That night, I finally sat her down. We were in the living room. No distractions, no excuses. Just the two of us, and the weight of everything she had done between us hanging in the air. I tried to keep my voice calm, even though inside I felt like I was burning. "Sarah, we need to talk. Really talk." She rolled her eyes. "Fine. What now? Another interrogation?" "No," I said firmly. "This isn't about interrogation. This is about the truth. You've lied to me for weeks, slept with another man, and acted like I'm the crazy one for noticing. I need to know why." She crossed her arms and leaned back on the couch. "Why? Because you're unbearable sometimes. You're controlling, paranoid, and boring. I told you, I needed space. Adam gives me that. I felt my stomach twist. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted to shake her until she finally felt even a fraction of the pain I was in. And that gives you the right to cheat? I asked quietly. My voice cracked slightly. To lie, manipulate, and disrespect me. To destroy everything we built. She didn't answer immediately. She just looked at me, her sharp, cold eyes meeting mine. Then she shrugged. I didn't destroy anything. You're acting like I murdered someone. We've had problems for months. You barely notice me. Maybe this is the wake-up call you need. I felt rage and despair twist together. Every lie, every fake excuse, every hidden message came rushing back. I realized I wasn't just hurt. I was grieving. Grieving the person I thought I married. Grieving the trust that had been built over 6 years of marriage. Grieving the reality that the woman in front of me didn't care. I took a deep breath. I trusted you. I believed in us. And this isn't us. This isn't love. This is selfishness. Her response. The same cold, unapologetic shrug. I don't see why you're making such a big deal. It's just life. At that moment, I knew I couldn't stay. I couldn't pretend this could be fixed. The confrontation wasn't about anger anymore. It was about clarity. And I finally had it. I told her, quietly but firmly, I can't do this anymore. I can't be in a marriage with someone who doesn't even pretend to care. I'm leaving. Her reaction. Shock. Then anger. Then disbelief. You're serious? She demanded. You're really just going to walk away? Yes, I said. I loved you. I still care about what we had. But this isn't it. Not anymore. And for the first time in weeks, I felt a small, heavy weight lift off my chest. Because even though it hurt like hell, I was finally choosing myself. And that was the first step toward healing. I didn't wait for her to beg or explain. I packed a bag that night, just the essentials, and left the apartment. Walking out, I felt a storm of emotions crashing over me. Anger. Sadness. Relief. Betrayal. Confusion. It was exhausting and disorienting all at once. The first few days were hell. I stayed with a friend, barely sleeping, replaying every lie, every late night, every fake excuse in my head. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, smug, indifferent, unapologetic. I went through our apartment slowly in my mind. The couch where I'd fallen asleep alone. The bedroom where she had been texting him while pretending to be tired. The kitchen where she had smiled like nothing had happened. Every corner reminded me of her lies. And yet, through all the pain, I started noticing little things. The freedom to think without constantly second-guessing. The quiet that wasn't filled with tension. The ability to breathe without carrying a weight that wasn't mine. I cried. I shouted into pillows. I called my parents, my friends. I didn't know how to process everything. But I began to feel a strange clarity. For the first time in months, maybe years, I started to understand something fundamental. I deserved honesty. I deserved respect. I deserved a partner who actually wanted to be with me. I realized that my grief wasn't just about losing her, it was about finally acknowledging that the person I married had been gone for a while, maybe even before Adam. And I didn't need to live in someone else's version of reality anymore. It hurt. It still hurts sometimes. But walking away allowed me to reclaim a piece of myself I didn't even know I had lost. And eventually, the anger gave way to reflection. The betrayal gave way to understanding that this wasn't my fault. That sometimes people reveal who they really are when you least expect it. I started thinking about what I wanted in the future. Not with her. Not with anyone else yet. Just me. And slowly, painfully, that thought didn't feel impossible anymore. Because leaving wasn't giving up. Leaving was choosing myself. And that realization, that's what finally helped me start healing. One night alone, sitting in a quiet apartment, I finally whispered to myself. I survived her lies. I survived the betrayal. And I'm going to be okay. And for the first time in months, I believed it. Looking back now, months later, I've realized a few things that I think might help anyone who's ever been in this kind of situation. First, trust is everything. Once it's broken like that, not by a misunderstanding, but by repeated lies and deliberate deceit, it's almost impossible to rebuild. I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt for weeks, and all it did was hurt me more. Second, your feelings are valid. For months, I questioned myself. I thought maybe I was overreacting, maybe I was too sensitive. But the truth is, I wasn't. The betrayal, the lies, the manipulation, it wasn't my fault. I was entitled to notice the red flags and to feel hurt by them. Third, leaving doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you failed. It doesn't mean you didn't love her. It means you value yourself enough to not stay in a relationship that destroys you from the inside out. Fourth, pain is temporary, but lessons are forever. The heartbreak was brutal. It consumed me for weeks. But it taught me to recognize red flags earlier, to prioritize honesty, and to never settle for someone who doesn't truly care about your feelings. And finally, healing takes time, but it's worth it. I still have bad days. I still think about her sometimes. But every day I wake up and feel a little lighter, a little stronger. I've started to rebuild my life, my confidence, my sense of self, things I didn't realize had been eroded over time. So if you're reading this and you suspect something is wrong, trust your instincts. Don't ignore the little things. Don't convince yourself that lying is harmless. And most importantly, never, ever forget that your heart, your dignity, and your happiness matter. Because in the end, surviving the betrayal didn't just save me from her. It saved me from myself.